All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to unpack one of the most famous and, honestly, one of the most misunderstood ideas about love. It's a standard that really governs not just how we treat other people, but, and this is the key part, how we treat ourselves. We've all heard this a million times, right? But how often do we really, truly stop and think about those last two words, as thyself? This isn't just some casual, off-the-cuff comparison. The source material is framing this as the absolute gold standard, the fundamental setting for every single relationship you will ever have. And that brings us to this first big idea, the standard for love. See, that little phrase, as thyself, is the bedrock for everything else. The health of the relationship you have with yourself directly, and I mean directly, impacts the quality of every other relationship in your life. Your spouse, your kids, your friends, your coworkers, everyone. This is just so critical to get. Before you can even begin to think about loving someone else the right way, you have to get that standard sorted out with the person you see in the mirror. You are the benchmark. You're the measuring stick. And that's the real question, isn't it? That's the one that hits home for so many of us. What happens when the very ruler you're supposed to be using to measure love is cracked or warped or just broken? This is where we shift from the ideal into a reality that's a lot more common and, frankly, a lot more painful. So now we've got to talk about the roots of self-hatred. We need to unpack what's described as this hidden wound. There's this quiet epidemic of low self-esteem, of people just not liking themselves. It's a wound that so many people carry around every single day, and a lot of the time, they don't even know it's there. You know, these wounds don't just appear out of thin air. They come from somewhere. Maybe it was a tough background or parents who just weren't there, maybe some past trauma. But it can also be something like social programming. Think about the bullies in school who told you were ugly or that you had a big head. You probably just laughed it off back then, but what you didn't realize is that they were writing a line of code in your brain, a program that you might still be running to this very day. Wow. Just let that sink in for a second. This quote just nails the consequence of all this. If, deep down, you don't like yourself, you are basically handing other people a permission slip to treat you the same way. A lot of the time, they're just mirroring the relationship you've already set up with yourself. Now, let's look at the ripple effect. Because that internal pain, it doesn't just stay put. It doesn't stay neatly contained inside of you. It always, inevitably, bleeds out and ends up affecting the innocent people in your life. It is as simple and as devastating as that. Wounded people wound people. This is the root cause of so much dysfunction in the world. It's why people get aggressive, why they can't seem to hold on to a healthy friendship, why some people actually feel a little bit of relief when they see someone else fail. It's not that they're bad people, it's that they are wounded people. And what do we do with all this pain? Well, we often put the blame in the wrong place. The source material uses marriage as this perfect example. People will overload their marriage with all these crazy expectations it was never, ever designed to carry. They blame their spouse for an unhappiness that's really coming from their own lack of purpose or their own unresolved pain. The marriage just becomes the easy scapegoat for a much deeper problem that's going on inside. Okay, so what's the solution here? What do? We have to completely redefine what self-love actually means. And this distinction is absolutely crucial. Healthy self-love is not the same thing as selfishness. They're not even in the same ballpark. So look, healthy self-love is about taking full responsibility for your own healing, so you finally stop bleeding on other people. It's about investing in yourself so that you actually have more to give away. Selfishness, on the other hand, is all about using self as a shield to hide from healing. It's that what's in it for me mindset. Real self-love turns you into a giver. Selfishness will always make you a taker. So where do we start with this healthy self-love thing? Well, it begins with understanding what actually drives you as a human being. The source points to these 6 fundamental psychological needs. Literally everything we do, every career we choose, every friend we make, every lie we tell, is an attempt to meet one or more of these needs. If you can understand these, you can start to understand yourself and begin that healing process. Okay, let's get really practical now. How do we actually walk this path to becoming whole? It really boils down to one single powerful action: investment. Active, deliberate, intentional investment in yourself. This is such a powerful principle to lock into your mind. When the world sees you valuing yourself enough to develop your mind, to heal your past, to work on your character, it will start to reflect that same value right back at you. You are the one who sets the tone. And here's a super simple framework for taking that responsibility back. Look, some things in your life you can and you absolutely should change. Go do it. Other things you can't really change, but you can adjust to them. And then there's a third category, things you can't change or adjust. You just have to accept them with grace. The whole point is to stop being a victim of your circumstances and start using your power in one of these three ways. And this isn't just about you, by the way. This isn't a solo mission. If you're a leader, a boss, a husband, a wife, you have a deep responsibility to invest in the growth of the people around you. Because if you only grow by yourself, you'll eventually grow apart from them. Real growth is shared. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one question. Don't just let this be some interesting information you heard. Turn it into action. What is one real, tangible thing you are going to do this week to actively invest in your own value, your own healing, and your own growth?